Welcome to our YouTube channel dedicated to exploring the latest insights and opportunities in the world of finance and investments, with a special focus on currency revaluation, gold and silver investments, cryptocurrency, and make money online opportunities, and more. If you're interested in staying up to date on the latest developments in currency revaluation, particularly the Iraqi Dinar and other currencies, best to subscribe to this channel. Please note that the content on this YouTube channel is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We are not licensed financial advisors, and the opinions expressed on this channel are based on our own research and personal experience. We strongly recommend that you do your own research and consult with a licensed financial advisor. Also, just before we go any further, this channel has a weekly giveaway of 100 Dogecoin. To enter, all you have to do is be subscribed to this channel, like this video, and watch this video until the end, because if you don't, you will be automatically disqualified from the giveaway. We will be sharing the random hashtag keyword daily somewhere in the video, and then comment hashtag the keyword with no spaces in between in the comments section. Good luck. Today, we're diving into Tony's latest video, where he breaks down significant updates regarding Iraq's banking reforms and policy changes. Tony addresses the US Treasury's actions to combat money laundering and terrorist financing, particularly targeting Al-Huda Bank. He also discusses the US support for Iraq's financial sector reforms, aiming to enhance transparency and trade financing by expanding correspondent relationships and transitioning to electronic platforms. Additionally, Tony touches on the broader geopolitical implications, including recent events involving Hamas and Iran, and emphasizes the importance of understanding these changes for Iraq's economic future.
Hey everybody, Bob Adams here. Yes, it's only been a couple days since we sent that other one out, and I have to admit the response has been most interesting. Tony's received some, I would have to classify as hate mail, but you know, I've gotten a couple of them too. People are really lost in the information that Tony was sharing. And it wasn't Tony saying, let's get out. That wasn't that at all. It was simply saying, we have a policy change, one that was not anticipated, something that has to do with the fact that there's some things going on with the banking industry over there in Iraq that's not complying. And it was just plain good information, something that we all needed to have. So it's not something where we throw our hands in the air, run down the hallway with our hair on fire. It's not that at all. So Tony's got some updated information he wanted to share, and I thought this would be a good time for us to do it. So, Tony, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. So,
no problem. Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you. Let you guys know I'm still on vacation, so bear with me because I have my paper kind of strung out here. I'm going to try to do this with the Bob and I tried to do this a little bit earlier. We just simply didn't have the internet connection or a good connection. And I'm going to go through some articles. I'm going to go through some policy from the White House with Iraq, where this is coming from, because it's not something that just came up. All right? And you guys, you know, it's interesting because I thought before I did the last audio, you know, we knew that there was going to be some people that would get angry. All I could say, guys, tough. You know what I mean? Like I said, put on your big boy pants, tough. You know, the whole point of this is watching so we know where we are at, whether we stay in or get out, move to a different investment. And I know there's a whole group out there that don't even think like that. They don't want to move into a different investment or anything like that. But I clearly stated, and I'm going to repeat it right now, that I've always been pro the dinar revaluing. There's certain things that have to happen. That's never changed. But what's coming up and our policy towards Iraq has put me in the neutral zone. And I specifically said the last audio, I'm not getting out. As far as right now, I'm not getting out. Let's see what happens that comes on down the road. But I've gotten the weirdest hate mail with a capital H here. And you people just need to suck it up, all right? I don't care if it's not what you don't want to hear. I made a commitment. And think about all the stuff that I've gone through. the character assassinations and all that stuff, just reporting what the policy on Iraq is, and then whether it's pushing our speculation forward or not. That's it. That's all it was. Nothing more than that. So that's the reality of it. So, but with the death of the Hamas this morning, the leader of the Hamas in Iran, which is unbelievable. I even got more emails saying, hey, look, and none of this was hate email, but people are saying, hey, look, we don't need to worry about Hamas anymore because the leader got killed. You guys, for 2 seconds, all right, put your thinking cap on. Turn your brain on for about 2 seconds for the people who sent me these very particular emails. As murderous and I disagree with everything they believe in as they are, or as murderous as they are, they're not stupid. If their leader gets killed, they're going to replace the leader. They're still going to move forward with their policy, right? Can you for 2 seconds admit that? That doesn't change anything. There's millions of people behind these organizations. One guy gets killed, it doesn't change at all. They simply, in fact, that's the official PR release that they have out. It's like, we're finding a new leader, and then we're going to move forward. So that has no bearing on what Hamas is going to do or what they're not going to do. In fact, it's completely opposite. Now you have Iran, you have the Revolutionary Guard, the Houthis, and Yemen, and everybody's saying we're going to get revenge. So it's not negative in the sense that less is going to happen. It's that more is going to happen. And so that's why there's warships heading towards the Lebanese coast right now in anticipation towards this, all right? But that's a completely separate issue. Let's say if that never came up. Let's say that if someone out there proposed or did not propose that Hezbollah was going to set up their headquarters in Baghdad. Here's the reality, you guys, that United States wants. So let me read my bullet points. I've never done this before. I'm going to read the bullet points. I'm going to go through the whole thing, even though the way that I talk about this stuff is going to be out of order, all right? The US Treasury has taken action to protect the Iraqi financial system from illicit activities, specifically the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, the FinCEN, identified Al-Huda, I don't even know if I'm saying that word correctly, it's H-U-D-A, Bank, the Al-Huda Bank, as a primary money laundering concern for serving as a conduit for terrorist financing by Iran. And we've been begging these cheese dicks for a very long time to knock it the fuck off. We've given nothing but room for years, ladies and gentlemen, for years. All right? FinCEN proposed a rule to sever Al-Huda Bank from the U.S. financial system by prohibiting domestic financial institutions from maintaining correspondent accounts for the bank. The Office of Foreign Asset Control, OFAC, imposed sanctions on Al-Huda Bank's owners, Hamad al-Massawi, for supporting the IRGC and its proxy group in Iraq. Now, I'm being very specific about a specific bank. There's more, but I don't need to get into it. And by the way, the reason I don't do that is because there's very specific people, and I'm not throwing their names out. I'm just simply not. I'm not going to get into that world. But it has to do with terrorism and money laundering and all that stuff. But it's Sunni, Iran-backed business. And the United States, we've sanctioned the living hell out of Iran. And they're using these banks and this financial system that Iraq has to get around that to get U.S. dollars. And we're sick and goddamn tired of it. So you people need to wake up and pay attention because we're changing the policy. And I resent the emails that people are sending me saying that, well, it's just one article well, this guy, he got in trouble for this, this, and this, so I wouldn't put too much stock in it. It has nothing to do with the guy who wrote the article. The person they interviewed, and the information they're getting is correct. It's in more than one newspaper. So you guys, you can't, what that is you're narrowing your mindset, and you're doing it incorrectly. You're cheering for your favorite football team is what you're doing. It has nothing to do with logic and policy. Nothing at all. Zip. Nada. Do not, I beg you, do not turn this investment into a religion. And do not hide from facts. Don't do it. You're being warned. There's nothing that I can do, but I'm telling you, the people that think like that, the people that do that, they always have financial problems. All right? I wish I could be like some of you where it's like, well, this is God led me this investment. He's not going to let me down. I wish, I'm not kidding, and you can ask Bob, I wish I could believe that stuff. But the reality is you have to watch policy. Time to grow up. All right? So what is the United States trying to do? Let's cover that because, the what's going on with Hamas and what's going on in the financial system, yeah, they both do eventually have to do with Iran. But again, if Hamas had never proposed that they want to put their headquarters in Baghdad, you're still seeing the reaction. What's going on is because we're watching the money flow, you guys. That's what it is. We're watching the money. So specifically, what is the United States trying to do? Is in support of Iraq and its financial system. Help it move forward. All right. The United States is supporting Iraq's efforts to reform its financial and banking sector. This includes expanding corresponding relationships between Iraq's banks, international financial institutions to enable trade financing, strengthening cooperation to achieve greater transparency and collaboration against money laundering, financing terrorism, fraud, corruption, and sanctionable activities. One of the reasons that we're angry right now is because Iran is getting around some of the sanctions we put on them through Iraq, and that pisses us off. Right? Supporting the Central Bank of Iraq to help as part of our support, supporting the Central Bank of Iraq to fully wind down the wire auction mechanism by the end of 2024 and transition to direct correspondent relationships between Iraq and international banks. That is positive. That's what we want. That would motivate Iraq to actually start adding value to their currency. So let me read that to you again because it's very important. Our goal is supporting the Central Bank of Iraq to fully wind down the wire auction mechanism by the end of 2024 and transition to direct correspondent relationships between Iraq and international banks. Didn't say just American banks, it said international banks. All right? The US Treasury has been pressuring Iraq's central bank to expand an electronic platform across the country's banking system to help prevent the smuggling of US dollars to Iran and other destinations. You get the whole picture now? So regardless of Hamas and what they want to do and how they want, that's what we're trying to avoid. We've been begging them. We've been watching Iraq pass laws. For you guys, this crowd, specifically you guys, are totally hip on this. You guys know exactly. We've been watching them pass these laws, stuff like that, but they've been circumvented by these banks and financial institutions I'm not going to throw up on here. All right? But both these actions and policies aim to protect both the U.S. and Iraq's financial systems from abuse, supporting Iraq's economic growth, and prevent illicit activities such as the terrorist financing and money laundering. So that's specifically what's going on right now, and that's why these articles have come out. So having said that, I'm going to read from whitehouse.gov. And this has to do, so let me scroll up a little bit. This has to do with a joint statement from the leaders of the United States and the Republic of Iraq. And so let me give you guys a date, April 15th, all right? and I'll make sure I send Bob the link. Economy and finance. President Biden and Prime Minister Soudani discussed Iraq's progressive efforts to reform the financial and banking sector to connect Iraq to the international economy, increase trade while shielding the Iraqi people from harmful impacts of corruption and money laundering. Through 2023 and 2024, banks in Iraq have expanded their correspondent relationships and international financial institutions enable trade financing, with the majority of trade finance now occurring through these channels. The two leaders affirmed the importance of these and other measures to improve the investment climate in Iraq to attract foreign capital and promote economic growth. The United States and Iraq commit to strengthen their cooperation to achieve greater transparency and collaboration against money laundering, financing terrorism, fraud, corruption, sanction. That's where part of my bullet point, sanctioning activity that could undermine the integrity of both countries' financial systems. The two sides also committed to support the Central Bank of Iraq to fully wind down the wire auction. So that's where I got that, is off the whitehouse.gov. So that's, you guys, articles are opinion pieces. This is policy. This is the top of the policy. You can't get past that. All right? And so what's the response? The response is you have the Central Bank of Iraq. They want to do what Washington wants them to do. They want to be part of the international community. But the problem is that there's these banks, private banks, and different financial instruments in Iraq that are completely in bed with Iran. And there seems to be a problem of separation. And so the United States is going to punish Iraq for not being able to handle it correctly, is what's going to happen. And so that's what the warning I was talking to you guys about. All right? And so, we knew this was going on since January, by the way. And so what really worried me is that, okay, you have these financial institutions in Iraq, they're not compliant. They're not even compliant to the CBI. But the money is so intertwined, the financial system is so intertwined that the CBI can't just shut them off, because it'll hurt people that actually support what you and I want, or what the United States and Iraq want. So it's that embedded, all right? But the United States is saying enough is enough. We're not screwing around anymore. So we're protecting their financial system as much as possible, but it's being abused by people who don't like us. And we resent that, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't happen. All right, so I'm looking at it from an American policy to protect its financial system and make sure that people that do not like our financial system and want to destroy it, that they don't have the money and the influence and the power to destroy it by using our financial system. And that's what it comes down to. So just instead of, it's like, well, I don't want that to happen. I don't want negative things to happen. I want it to revalue. I want them so I can make money. Like I said, grow up. Give me a break. So I'm going to commit to you again that I don't care if it's negative news. I have absolutely no problem of telling people that, this might come to an end. Because that's the truth, and that's what I committed to you guys. Right now, I'm still neutral. What I'm looking at is the United States saying you need to respond. And if you don't, it's going to get worse. And you won't be part of the international financial community, and you won't, your economy outside of its energy will not expand. So you guys, I don't know how many audios I've done with you guys where I talked about the key for Iraq and for them to not be dependent on the dollar. And if their economy is just going to be 100% energy, then they're going to be 100% dependent on the U.S. dollar. So how do they get their currency outside of that? They have to open up to doing business in completely different sectors. It doesn't have to be 100%. And then they'll attach that part of the economy to the Iraqi dinar. and then they'll add value to the dinar as they see fit. That's always, from the very beginning, since I got into this, that's always been the underlying goal of what we want Iraq to do and what Iraq wants to do. But we're not going to let them do that while they're financing terrorism or groups that are within that system that finance terrorism. It's just simply not going to happen. So that's what I'm begging you guys to watch, because there's resistance. And so I don't know, if, in my opinion, think about this. In my opinion, if the CBI and these guys had that much influence, it had already happened. That's the problem I'm having. Don't think for a minute that they haven't gone to these banks and these individuals and said, hey, we're trying to go, they don't give a shit. We're against those guys. We don't like Americans. We don't like the U.S. dollar. We don't like the SWIFT system. We don't like international business. We're radicals. What are you going to do about it? That's what scares me. That's the problem. It's not that they don't want to. It's that they can't. Otherwise, they've already done it. And the other half of that is that the United States putting major pressure on the CBI. I don't think they can make any more. What can the CBI do? They can't force. If they already would have done it. You see what I'm saying? That's the problem I'm having. That's why I say, because what people will do is they'll find the most positive thing they can think of out of this, let their imagination get away from them and say, well, the United States is, trying to influence them to do the right thing, and hopefully they will do it, and then everything will be hunky-dory. Well, the reality is, and in my opinion, is that if the CBI had that influence, it would have been done already. That's the problem. So, I'm taking a step back looking at this, and that's why I said that I'm in the neutral zone. It's like, okay, and you guys, it sucks because, I put my heart and soul into this. So don't think for a minute that I don't feel it, because I do. But I'm not going to get on here and I'm not going to turn this into a religion. I'm not going to, give you guys a pep talk, a rally talk, when this could mess up the time frame, push it back, maybe even permanently, if Iraq can't handle these financial problems. So let me read a little bit more here so you guys. So U.S. Treasury takes actions to protect Iraq financial system from abuse. And this is from January. And so this is what I said that comes from January, and I read this when it came up. FinCEN identifies Al Huda Bank as primary money laundering concerns for serving as a conduit for terrorist and financing by Iran. The OFAC imposes sanctions on banks' owners. All right? So, and I'll give you the link for this also. But remember, this is not the only one. This is not, and it is a problem because it's not like the bank is just specifically their customers are just from Iran. There's other problems, and it needs to be shored up. It needs to be taken care of. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping something will come out of it to where this will shore up, and these people are cut off from Iraq's banking system, or they're punished somehow, and then we can get back to where the United States is not sanctioning anybody on that issue, and not threatening and wanting to punish the Iraqi financial system. So, and here's the other end, because I know how people think. They're going to say, well, it'll hurt us too if we hurt Iraq. No, it won't. It will not. That same argument is used before we sanctioned the living shit out of Russia and China and Iran, and U.S. dollar got stronger. not because of that specific reason, but that's, well, guys, when you sanction these countries, they can't use the U.S. dollar anymore. All right, so, people are like, yeah, they'll just use their own currency. They would have if they already could have. They wouldn't be out there trying to get the U.S. dollar if their currency could do that for them and have purchasing power like the U.S. dollar does, have influence like the U.S. dollar. They would have already done that. There wouldn't be these artificially created articles out there about the BRICS if they could already do that. We're gonna take over. We're gonna go after the U.S. We're gonna beat the SWIFT system. We're gonna, there would be no articles out there that are like that, and none of it's come true. And unfortunately, most people can't do simple math. They can't look at all those countries that are in BRICS and the inflation they're all going through, and the ones that have been sanctioned, and then how their currency has lost influence, not gained influence, and how the U.S. dollar has gained influence and not lost influence. We live in an upside down world when it comes to information. It's the weirdest thing. But you don't need to get your hopes down or anything like that. Just like Bob stated, it's information, and information helps us where we need to be in. So I'm going to cut this a little. I'm going to read a little bit here about because a couple of you guys have been sending me. I'm going to read a couple questions here, and bear with me because I have paperwork all over the place, you guys. I had to throw this together. Like I said, I'm on vacation, and I had to throw this together, so bear with me. Let me find this real quick. I want to be able to answer a couple of questions. Okay, so let me see. Let's do this, because there's been some very good questions based on my last article, because it's like, and the conversation I'm having with a couple of people, it's like, look, you said that we shouldn't pull out of Afghanistan, and I believe that, all right, but I keep reading these articles that we're trying to pull out of Iraq, and that's more relevant today to our conversation today than anything. But the United States, we don't need to have a full army in Iraq. We can have, 2,000, 3,000 soldiers in Iraq. And by the way, we still have bases all over the Middle East. And that's the same thing with Afghanistan. We didn't have to fully pull out of Afghanistan. We could have had 2,500, 3,000 soldiers there, and the war would have technically would have been over. But no, we just pulled out. So let me read this for you guys real quick. It says, as U.S.-Iran conflict builds across the Middle East, Iraq is caught in the middle. Members of the Popular Mobilization Force, mostly Shiite militia group, and the post at the Iraq border in Syria outside al-Badi, Iraq. The Iraq Prime Minister traveled to Washington in spring. He hoped to negotiate a much-needed economic development package and discuss shared strategies, interests with the United States and one of its country's most important international allies. But the very day he arrived in mid-April, events unfolded at home, serves as a stark reminder of the competing influence of the Iraq Prime Minister. Caught in between, Iran was sending drones and missiles to attack Israel, and at least one Iraqi militia backed by Iran participating in the attacks. You guys see how more deep this gets in? It's not just a couple of things here. Both the United States and Iran have long held sway in Iraq. But since the war between the U.S. ally Israel and Iran-backed Hamas broke out in Gaza Strip almost 10 months ago, they are increasingly at odds. With regards to Iraq, one of the most contentious issues is the continued presence of 2,500 U.S. troops on Iraqi soil. Over the past 20 months, Iran has used its considerable influence to try to persuade the Iraqis to push those forces out. And if it succeeds, it would give Iran even more say over Iraqi's policies. I don't need to read the rest, but I will send you the the article. And by the way, Martha out there sent me probably 6 or 7 articles, and I want to thank you, Martha, because you basically cut my homework in half for doing this. The articles that I had have from the U.S. Department, the Treasury, and from the White House, that means it's official, by the way. It's not an opinion piece. It's official policy. All right? And that's what I built my bullet points, but you did a lot outside of that, and I want to appreciate that. So everybody needs to thank Martha, and thank you again, Martha. But so we have 2,500 troops in the United States, and there's a couple in Iran. I want to make a point here. That's major influence. So the article stated that, Iran is trying to get complete influence of Iraq. So when Trump asked Secretary Chris Miller to get out of Iraq and Afghanistan and make it happen, that's what he was asking us. So you get out of Iraq, then Iraq falls into Iran's hands. And it's clearly stated here, there's 2,500 troops. You don't need an entire army. You don't need to be at war with Iraq or anybody else. You guys see what I mean? Just the numbers. If we could have did that in Afghanistan, end the war, say the war is officially, shake hands with the Taliban and do whatever. But instead we completely pulled out, 100%. 2 incompetent presidents fucked everything up for everybody. And that's that. I don't give a shit who you're going to vote for or why or whatever. That is, so I could take it into a court of law, because that's where this policy is coming from. Trump put it out. His Secretary of Defense made it happen, got it ratified, and it happened. So even if you say, well, Trump would have probably left troops in there, great. That's a fantastic statement after you realize you made the shittiest mistake on the planet. And that's exactly how we interpret that. But we do not need to be pulling our 2,500 troops, which are advisors, out of Iraq. We don't need to be pulling them out of any country in the Middle East, because we don't want to give Iran any type of advance, any way, shape, or form, until we can shore that problem up. So it's deeper than just Iraq, and it's they're going to revalue. That's what's going on. Is that we're sick and tired of the influence of Iran inside of Iraq. The way that we set up the coalition government, we defeated Saddam Hussein. So these jackasses, when George Bush Jr. got on that ship and said mission accomplished, then you had all these liberal dipshits, these far-left liberal dipshits, and now the alt-right dipshits saying, oh, here's this cheese dick out there talking about, mission accomplished. He was so wrong because then all this other stuff happened. No, they kicked the government out. They defeated that government. And we tried to set up a coalition government that was pro-West. Didn't have to be a democracy like us. That's not the point. It's just that they weren't backed up by terrorist groups or radical groups. It was a moderate. They tried to set up a moderate coalition. That's what they tried to do. And you have dipshits on the far right and dipshits on the far left saying, oh, look, okay, we failed is because people didn't push for it. It wasn't because of negative intent. It wasn't because of, Halliburton. Halliburton did this, God damn it. Bullshit. The Middle East was coming apart. Saddam Hussein was creating wars, all right? There was going to be a major war in the Sunni Shia world, and we stopped them from having it. Remember Saddam Hussein, the war against Iraq and Iran? Go look that up and see how many people died. Millions of people died. And it was coming down the road. You had more problems. You had Al-Qaeda. You had ISIS. You had all these groups. It needed to be shored up, and that's exactly what we did. So, going through all that process, regardless of what these alt-right cheese dicks say, it had to happen. Our markets had to be protected. Their markets had to be protected. because Iran was gaining influence and they were gaining power. And if they didn't, Saddam Hussein was gaining influence and gaining power. That's not good because he attacked Kuwait. He attacked everybody he can get his hands on. He got away with what he can get away with. That's why we're in the Middle East. So we don't need to be pulling out of anywhere because that type of influence is still, that threat is still there. So again, we don't need to be going to, we don't need to have major wars, right? But we do need to police the region. And I resent these morons who are out there who are bitching about local police being defunded and using that principle saying local police, they need the funds. Absolutely, 100%. But also our military needs the funds to protect us outside the United States, our markets outside the United States. And I resent the idea they don't have a goddamn clue what they're talking about, and they think that the dollar can be what it needs to be, and we can protect ourselves, and we can expand our markets without protecting ourselves outside of our borders of the United States of America. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, I resent the people out there who want to defund the police and turn right around and say, no, we need to bring our military in because there's crimes going on outside the United States, and it's aimed at us. And if it's not aimed at us, they'll gain so much more power and market influence that they will aim it at us. And I'm just sick and tired of the bullshit. I'm sick and tired of that talk. The United States needs troops in Afghanistan, about 2,500, because look at the population in Afghanistan. Look at the population in Iraq. That 2,500 troops or advisors is a major threat to Iran and the terrorist groups. And so, it's a big deal. It seems like a small number, but it's not. It's a big deal. It's a lot of influence. So somehow we need to get that type of policing in Afghanistan on one side, keep the troops that we have in Iraq on the other side, so we have Iran at a minimum surrounded. We can go after them financially, because what we're talking about today, you guys, that's what it's tied to. It's all tied to that. And we're going to start punishing Iraq for being influenced too much. We don't mind them being Sunni. We don't mind them being Shia. It's none of our business. But when they support groups and those groups are using financial institutions inside of Iraq to laundry money and to get U.S. dollars, we're going to make them pay. And that's what we're talking about here today. It's not because of some guy who wrote an article somewhere, has a criminal record or whatever. Open your eyes, get your head out of your asses, put your big boy pants on, because this is reality. This is what's happening. That's why I want to do this audio for you guys. All right? I'm going to tell you, most of you guys are just total warriors. Like, hey, whatever happens, thank you for keeping it real. You guys, thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I'm not kidding. You can ask Bob. Bob's laughing. I know he's laughing because it's like, holy shit. You put your heart and soul into something, try to tell the best truth that you can, and it's like, hey, this picture right here doesn't look good. Oh, you son of a bitch. Never liked you anyways. Like, come on, you guys. This is the reality. To this day, with everything that we talked about, right? It's like, oh, my God, that's a negative picture. No, they could turn around. But right now, I'm neutral. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I just don't. So let me read again. I'm going to go back to the stated. The Treasury has been pressuring Iraq's central bank to expand an electronic platform across the country's banking system to help prevent the smuggling of U.S. dollars to Iran over other destinations. So that's what you need to be looking for, is that electronic platform that has different instruments in it that can block, qualifying instruments that can block these type of smuggling or money laundering, all right? These actions and policies aim to protect both the U.S. and Iraqi financial systems from abuse, support Iraq's economic growth. That's our number one goal here in the United States. And I hope the CBI becomes compliant. Well, right now, this isn't new, you guys. This isn't new. It's not something that just came up. We've always told them this is what you need to do. They haven't done it. And like I said, if they could have, they would have. There's, I don't have enough information to specifically say what it is. Is a threat? Is, who's sitting on is there somebody in the CBI blocking it? Is there's, finance is a weird thing. It gets entangled. But that's all it is. That's all it is. So we need to keep the troops in Iraq. We need to put troops back in Afghanistan or that arena. Special Forces, 2,500. You guys, advisory. They don't need to be nothing other than that, just to make sure that these batshit crazy groups don't build a base to threaten the West. Boom, we're good. And then pray that Iraq fixes its financial system, goes after these banks and said, yes, we're going to be compliant. Do whatever they can to do it. That's what they need to do. But that's what you guys need to watch. You need to specifically watch. I'll read it one more time. US Treasury has been pursuing Iraq Central Bank to expand, or pressuring Iraq Central Bank to expand an electronic platform across the country's banking system to help prevent the smuggling of US dollars to Iran. You get it? Underlined 500 million times? So I think, what do you think, Bob? Is there anything that I missed?
No, I think you pretty well covered it. I know you got a lot of information from Martha, which is great. I know she's been a great source over the years we've known her. And I think that covers it. I mean, guys, you got to realize, even though sometimes when you get a change in information, the first thing that your ego wants you to do is be afraid. It loves to keep you in fear. And it's one of the things Tony and I have talked about every time we talk to you. Fear is the element that just drives us into doing crazy things. So back off, catch breath, be okay. And remember, this is a shoebox investment. We don't know which way it's going to go. Based on policy, it should reevaluate itself and become a major player in the Middle East. It hasn't happened yet. And now we've got problems that haven't been addressed and taken care of yet. So like him, I'm not done with it. I'm not throwing out. I'm not giving up either. We're just having to be aware of what's going on around us. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, Bob. So just to be clear, you guys, this is not an investment. It's speculation. You have to understand. If you don't know what that means, look it up on AI. What's the difference between speculation and an investment? Well, it's a different animal. All right. I've used that in the past. I've used this is an investment, and it's incorrect. It's just you get talking, and sometimes you just say stuff incorrectly. We are speculating. That's a completely different ballgame. Investing is something completely different. All right. But also, I want to read a couple questions for you guys, and then so I don't want to take up too much of your time. So right after I made the last audio, by the way, the audio that why am I investing in this? Or I just gave him a speech, right, Bob? Why am I speculating in the Iraqi Dinar? And I told you guys that I would do a foundational audio for you guys and put it all together. And I still believe in all that stuff today. We just have to get past what these guys are talking about, what we talked about today. The threat to the market system, the threat to Iraq being part of the international market system, and everything. So we'll watch. That's all we can do. So here's the question. Do you anticipate, it says, I feel like the RV will happen perhaps in a few months rather than years. Okay, cool. Do you anticipate that the exchange rate will be close to the same no matter which bank or exchange entity? You guys, so the rate is the rate. If a bank charges a percentage because of an exchange, that's on the bank. You're just simply going to have to shop, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. So to clarify that, what does this guy mean? Let's say it comes in, we'll just use throw a number, 25 cents, and a bank charges you 2% for the exchange. And there's a difference. Like when people were actually buying the dinar from banks here in the United States, there was a difference in the exchange rate. One bank was 1%, one bank was 2%. I can't remember what mine was. I bought mine from Chase Bank. I bought all my Iraqi dinar from an American Chase Bank, and I asked them where do they get their dinar. They said they got it from Bank of America, and it specifically came out of St. Louis. So it's like, well, where's it being shipped from? St. Louis. And I don't have that written down. I just remember that. It's like, well, and it's like, yeah, you actually got the best exchange rate you can get. You definitely don't want to go to these private guys where they're charging 40% to buy the currency. And that's where they're making the money. And you guys, I don't have any problem with anybody making any money or anything like that. Obviously, people bought from them. People didn't have access to Chase Bank like I did, so they just bought online or whatever. But there is differences. So that's a good question. It is. But there's no way to know what the banks will charge for their exchange. But I'm pretty sure they're going to be competitive. All right? But his second half of his questions, or would it be wise to open an account with a major bank? I don't know. I don't know. I simply don't. I don't have the answer to that. But I wanted to answer your question because I get that all the time. So the second one, it's Mike, and Mike, I appreciate your question, and I'm not going to read the intro, just the question part. So I feel like I understood the message and interpretation of the article, but perhaps these thoughts will uncover that I may have misunderstood it. It sounded like to me one of the goals is to try to get the U.S. dollar as the predominant currency in Iraq. Could this be their way of getting notes off the street? No. And that's a good question. You know what? Even though it's a big no, and it's some people could say, well, kind of look between the lines here. No, don't look in between the lines. But that, Mike, the idea that you asked that question makes me unbelievably happy because that's how you have to think about currency. Always be thinking about currency, right? And, are they expanding their money supply or are they shrinking their money supply? So in my mind, you've got it down pat. You're always asking that question. How does this reduce the money supply? One way or the other, the Iraqi currency or the U.S. currency or vice versa. I love it. But, it's not a plot for the United States. You guys, we already have what we need. And the United States, Iraq's energy is tied up in the U.S. dollar. If Iraq decides to somehow get out of the U.S. dollar and sell their currency, is it going to hurt the U.S. dollar? No, because they're going to want to invest in our markets in other venues anyways. So they're going to need the U.S. dollar. So it's still going to be relevant. All right, that's the power of the U.S. dollar. I've been doing a study for a couple of groups, and you can't imagine how much influence the U.S. dollar has right now. There is nothing like it that's ever existed. That's why it's so strange. There's people out there saying, U.S. dollar's in trouble. It's like, okay, what are you looking at? It's like, well, look at our debt. That has nothing to do with the power of the U.S. dollar. Our debt doesn't determine your debt. Let's say your personal debt. You owe for a house, you owe for a car, you're still paying for your tattoo. You know what I mean? That doesn't have any bearing on the value of the currency you have in your pocket. How does that work? Anyways, I don't want to get into that. But super good question. Let me read his other question. I've always heard, probably mostly by crazy rumors spreading bloggers that crave attention, that there would be some curveballs or negative information right before the RV will occur or would occur. It's just a possibility in your mind. And you know what? You are correct. And I'll give you an example, prime example. China. China emphatically denied that they were going to devalue their currency. And people were asking them because people knew. Every time China bought a shitload of treasury bills and did a couple other moves, they were going to devalue the currency. Right now, they're buying gold. They're just simply buying a ton of gold. And so they're going to devalue their currency. But I think your question is brilliant, and I think it's correct. But and by the way, Mike, the reason I staged the audio that I did today, and I went back and I read all those articles from the Treasury Department and from the WhiteHouse.gov, is so it's not just coming from news sources from Iraq that would make us think that this might be some type of curveball or something like that. And having said that, I don't want you guys out there looking at every article. It's like, well, this might be a curveball. This could be a bait and switch. This could be no. There's very specific financial moves that will be made in Iraq before they revalue the currency. And the news that come out, if they're trying to hide it, would be completely opposite of those moves. And there's nothing like that going on. And like I said, China is a perfect example. They came out and specifically said, no, we're not going to devalue our currency. It's a lie. It's a rumor. And then the very next day, right, they devalued the currency. So let's put things in order, be very clear. Iraq has to be in the right position, and the United States to be international and be open up internationally for their currency, the Iraqi currency, to gain a value and be recognized. All right? And right now, the United States is punishing them. We're going to punish them. We're simply going to punish them. And we'll see if it works. Hopefully it works. Because I can't imagine the CBI, the Ministry of Planning, the Ministry of Finance, and Iraq's parliament saying, no, I don't want to do business with the West. I don't want to expand our markets. I haven't read anything anywhere where anything like that has been said or suggested. So we have that going for us. The only thing we can do is watch and see what transpires. But Iran has influence, and when it comes to these proxy wars, in a way that they're actually kind of brilliant at the way that they do it. They have way more influence than what they should have. They're very, very good at it. So let's just sit back and watch. All right? Right now, there is not a path for Iraq to do international trade. Right now, they're going to be sanctioned because of these banking practices. And it's not the CBI who's doing it. For some reason, the CBI will not and cannot shore these guys up. And it might just be threats like, hey, back off, we'll kill you. These guys are terrorists. It might be something as simple as that. We're going to have to watch and see. So, guys, with all my heart and soul, just stay in reality, all right? No weird emails, no weird happy thoughts that just, I want to be happy and positive too. Just kumbaya shit. It's not reality. Stay away from that stuff. For the love of God, stay away from that stuff. And you guys hit me up with any questions. Excuse me, I apologize. I'm going to send these links to you guys, or Bob is, when he puts the audio up. And just be positive. There's always, Iraq is such a small piece of all the money that's flowing around this planet. It's not the only solution. I keep telling you that. I think there's $25 trillion worth of U.S. dollar and money flowing around the planet 24 hours. You take all the money that's flowing around internationally, right? Put it all together, and in U.S. it's like $25 trillion or something like that, flowing around every single day. Yeah, Iraq's not the only solution. So just bear that in mind. Again, I'm sure we'll have an audio up coming up, questions or whatever, but my intent is to put up the foundation audio up. So, why I speculated on the Iraqi Dinar and why, everything I looked at, all those principles and everything like that will be coming up here pretty soon. So, again, thanks for the questions. Thank you, Martha. I don't know if you were anticipating an audio coming up or what, but those articles were great because they were outside of the original article that I read on the last audio. So it was, that much more information. But thank you. And Bob,
Yep.
What do I say?
It. Yeah. Hey, listen, folks, this was an update. This is the second time we've recorded this, and for some reason, the internet is just being funky today, and so it's going to sound a little bit weird. I apologize. Nothing we can do about it. The first time we did it, it was really bad. So this is our second shot at it. It's not as bad, but it's not near as clear as we've had it in the past. For that, I apologize.
I'm up in the mountains, Bob, so I guarantee that's what it is. It's just I'm not in the middle of nowhere.
That's what I figured. Okay. All right. Well, that's it from my end. You okay there?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Bob.
All right. Bye-bye.
That concludes the update from Tony Bradley. In conclusion, Tony's analysis sheds light on the critical developments in Iraq's banking sector and the broader geopolitical landscape. The US Treasury's focus on combating financial crimes and supporting Iraq's financial reforms signifies a pivotal shift towards greater transparency and economic stability. Understanding these changes is crucial, not just for those interested in Iraq's economic future, but for anyone keeping an eye on global financial trends. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis on the latest economic and monetary reforms. Before ending with this video, the hashtag keyword for the 100 Dogecoin giveaway is influence. You can be the lucky winner if you like, subscribe, and watch the main content of this video. This will be for this Sunday's giveaway, and the winner will be announced in one of the Sunday's videos, so you do not want to miss it. I hope you enjoy this video. What are your thoughts of this video? Do you think this is the main reason for the delay of the revaluation or reinstatement of the dinar? We will have more videos coming up shortly supporting the changes taking place in Iraq, so you don't want to miss them. Also, please drop a comment below with hashtag and the keyword and let us know what you think. If you like this content and like to support this channel, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you get notified when new videos are uploaded. See you on the next one. Bye.